Hey there, listener. Welcome to the Deep Share podcast. I'm your host, Andy Rouse, and for the last couple of decades, I've slowly been opening my eyes to a very different world than the one I grew up hearing about. And the more conversations I have with interesting people, the more mystifying this world becomes. So without further ado, let's get deep.
We've got science to celebrate! Demons bliss out! After what, baby? Come on!
There is rebellion in the wind. It will crush.
Everything I've said is true. It's real.
Dinosaur fossils? God put those here to test our faith.
A damn lie. I saw them with my own eye.
Did IQs just drop sharply while I was away?
We did illusions, man! None of it is true!
I'm not insane.
This is mass madness, you maniacs! In God's name, you people are the real thing! We are the illusion!
Welcome back to the Deep Share. Tonight, I have the host of Upstate Unconventional with me, Niko. Niko, how's it going, man?
Going really good, Andy. Thank you so much for having me on.
Hell yeah, man.
It's still surreal to me, dude. Like, I started my show in June, and I'm like listening to all your guys' shows before that, and now I'm sitting here talking with you. It's just, it's cool.
Dude, your show's going great. I love it, man. You're doing
Thank
a lot
you.
of good stuff.
Thank you very much.
Kind of covering a lot of the same material that I love more than anything else, which is the weird fringes of consciousness and the experiences that come with that. And you've definitely had quite a few of those.
Yeah, that's why I named the show Upstate Unconventional. You know, I just want to talk about the unconventional topics that, you know, get the weird looks and everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the stories that people tell, and they're like, you're not going to believe this, but no, I will believe it. Let's hear it.
Yeah, let's follow this thread. Let's see where it goes, you know? So let's give
Exactly.
my audience a little background for those who don't know you yet. How did you get into podcasting? You know, what inspired you to get that going? And even further than that, what kind of turned your head at one point in life that made you look at this stuff?
Yeah, so I've had paranormal experiences most of my life. I had one, I was probably about 5 years old or so, 4 or 5, somewhere around there. And then I didn't have anything for a while. And then we moved into a new house in like 2003. I was 12 years old, 11 or 12 years old. And I started experiencing sleep paralysis. And my brother had a crazy amount of paranormal experiences, seeing ghosts or whatever ghosts are. He had someone in his room. And yeah, but with the sleep paralysis, I was always told it was just bad dreams, just nightmares, you know, nothing to worry about. And so I just kind of chalked it up to that. And then getting into podcasting. So that went on from about 2003 to about 2016 when I met my wife. When I met my wife, things started calming down significantly. And there's some synchronicities with meeting her and stuff like that. And we can get into all that, but to get into podcasting, in August of 2020, I hadn't had sleep paralysis in several years. And I had one that happened, and it was just, you know, out of this world. It snuck up on me, like literally. And that got me listening to like I was listening to like Joe Rogan and stuff like that. I was awake to a lot of conspiracies too. I was a teacher before I quit teaching. So when I was in college, I'm sorry, I'm jumping all over the place.
Oh,
but
no worries, man.
yeah. So in college, I started waking up to it. I started seeing the actual propaganda. You know, I started watching like Ancient Aliens and things like that. And then that leads you down the rabbit hole, and you start kind of picking up on, oh, you know, they're controlling things. They're doing this, they're doing that. And I'm like seeing it firsthand in my teaching program, like how they're manipulating the language, how they're weaponizing diversity, things like that. And I'm like, these crazy conspiracy theorists aren't that crazy, you know? And then in 2013, the day I was graduating from my teaching program, the night before that, I had a wild sleep paralysis, lucid dream, strange encounter that just really opened my eyes to things. And I really started kind of diving down the spiritual route and trying to look for answers on what the hell that could have been. But yeah, so back to podcasting 2020, I had this experience. So I started kind of branching out, and I started listening to shows like The Confessionals, with Tony Merkel and stuff. And I started hearing people talk about sleep paralysis. And I was already kind of on the train that sleep paralysis was a spiritual thing, away from science. And so I just started diving down that rabbit hole and hearing these other encounters, and they're very similar to mine, or, stuff like that. So
Did you ever see that documentary, The Nightmare?
I have not.
Dude, it's on Netflix. You should definitely check it out because it's all about sleep paralysis, and it's firsthand accounts. And I'm curious to hear some of your experiences in that realm, because this is they got like 6 people together that from all different walks of life that all had a very, very similar experience. And it's all that pressure on the chest, dark, shadowy figures in the room. And that's pretty creepy to have that be a synchronicity across so many people's dreams.
And then you start hearing about like the Hat Man and things like that. I never saw the Hat Man, but
I've heard of that.
I've had black entities, like, big, massive things that are just standing in the corner, and you're like, how do you explain that? Like, okay, I can get behind sleep paralysis when they say, oh, it's your mind woke up before your body. But when you're in that state and you see in the corner of the room, there's something just staring at you, and it's like a black hole that feels like it's just sucking in all the light around you and things like that. Like, that gets a little harder to explain, but yeah.
And it also kind of feels like there's some things that align with sleep paralysis and lucid dreaming, where like a lot of accounts of sleep paralysis sound somewhat like lucid dreams in a way. Am I right there? Is it like, are they connected in your opinion?
I think they are, because a lot of, I don't actively try to lucid dream. It just happens, a couple times I've actually tried to do it. Nothing happened at all. So it's like,
I've tried to do the same thing, man. You look up all these websites, all these techniques you can try. It's never worked for me. I guess you're supposed to meditate more. I don't know. Dream journals, things like that. There's things you can do, I guess.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like these dreams, like I didn't have to write them down. They're like burned in my memory, They're
that's
just
wild.
This was important for you to remember, and that's it. Like, you're not going to forget this. But, yeah, I've had a few like lucid dreams where I've woken up and they typically end in like when I wake up out of the lucid dream, then I'm in the sleep paralysis and I can't move. And dude, I've had times where it's because just from having it so much, you get used to, like, I have a clock next to my bed. You get used to looking at the time, you just kind of train yourself to see. And sometimes the time's significant, but like I did it more to see like how long I was actually stuck there. And I've had times the longest was like 7 minutes where you're stuck in sleep paralysis. And dude, like 7 minutes doesn't sound like that long, but when you can't move, you feel like you can't breathe. It's an eternity, and it screws you up. I've never been in like a float tank, but I could assume it's maybe something like that, like a sensory deprivation type thing.
Have you ever had like positive sleep paralysis though? I mean, I haven't heard many situations like that, but maybe it can be flipped around if you're like, I don't know, super mastered in controlling consciousness or something.
It hasn't happened yet.
No, it's too shocking and scary, I guess, right?
Well, when it happens a lot, it gets to the point where you're kind of used to it, and you're like, okay, just ride this out. And then you kind of talk yourself out of it. You're like, I know what this is. This is going to end soon. And then you just kind of slowly come out of it. But dude, that time when it was like 7 minutes, I was like looking at the clock, it was like 3:03. And then by the time I finally was able to move, it was like 3:10. It felt like a year went by.
That reminds me of psychedelic experiences I've had where time just stretches into infinity, and you feel like you're the tiniest fraction of a thing. Just, it's crazy, man, how time is so not real or something.
Yeah. And I've had, experiences where I've experienced lost time, and it's happened with my wife, and we both look at each other and we're like, how the hell did that happen? And like, it started picking up like last year, right around this time. The first, honest to God, I'm going to say something that it's going to sound crazy, but it's synchronistic. Today's the 14th. I actually documented. I'll send you the screenshot of it. We had a moment of lost time last year on this date. So that's weird that we're talking about.
Here we are
now.
talking about it.
But yeah, I mean,
Completing
we
the
just
loop.
it's just crazy. Like we just sat down, on the couch. We were talking. Felt like 5 minutes. We got the kids to bed. It was like 8:30-ish. Sat down. We're just talking 5 minutes. We look at our phones. It's like 11 o'clock. And we're like, what the hell?
Yeah, where did all that go?
it's nothing weird other than that happened, but it's wild. But yeah, just to wrap that up real quick, about the podcasting. So I started listening to all these shows. I had the idea to start one and just see where it took me, and I didn't know where to start. That was in like December of like 2020, and then by June 2021 I had a really, really weird encounter. I don't know if you've heard this one, but it was a kind of out of body.
Yeah, well, tell it, man. If
yeah.
you don't
So,
mind.
yeah. So this has happened a few other times, but never where it's been so obvious that this was affecting things like in the real world too. So I had my show set up and everything, no episodes yet. And I'm just trying to figure out what to do as like the first episode. And that doesn't have anything to do with it, but I'm sitting on the couch. My son fell asleep. He's on the little love seat, like next to us. My dog's sleeping on the floor. He's a puppy. And my wife's sleeping like kind of on my lap. So I'm just sitting there. Her head and shoulders are like on my lap, and she's asleep. And I'm just kind of sitting there like on my phone, whatever. And it's like, I don't remember the exact time, so I'm not going to say the time, but I think it was like 10 o'clock at night. But so I'm just sitting there and I just kind of start dozing off, closing my eyes. And I don't know if a lot of people get this, but anytime I close my eyes, I see colors kind of swirling. And
oh, my wife gets that.
Yeah, so it's weird. Like I'll just close my eyes and takes a second, but then I'll start seeing a lot of purples and greens kind of swirling around. And
I can only do that if I press against my eyes. If I do that, then I can get it going. Sometimes I can keep it going, but I can I hope I'm not doing damage to my eyes, But but you see insane colors.
It's exactly that, but it's just I don't. It helps to pressurize, but sometimes I can just close them and then it'll just start swirling around and doing that. So I'm just sitting there, just kind of, I guess, meditating, zoning out into this, and they start swirling. And then all of a sudden I'm like sitting. It looks like the best way I can explain it is that it looks like I'm sitting in the backseat of a car and I'm looking out the window. So I like see the panel on the door and I see the window, but the window is where the colors are swirling and things like that. And as I'm sitting there kind of looking at it, and it's in the first person, so I can like kind of see my hands in this state and everything. And I'm just kind of looking through the window, and all of a sudden, like a scene pops up like in the window, and I'm looking out and I see like a forest. Looks like, a still picture of a forest. And I'm like, oh, and as soon as I recognize, like make that conscious connection, like, oh, I'm looking at trees, it goes away. And then another picture started kind of swirling in. And it happened a few times. I'm seeing like, a city, trees, lake, just a bunch of different kind of still images. And then all of a sudden I see this, and it's, I see my dog in this window, and he's sleeping on the grass. And I like stop and I look at him, and I'm like, oh, that's, I make the connection. It's him. And he like looks up at me in this thing, and we make eye contact, and all of a sudden he wakes up in real life on the floor next to me, and I heard his head pop up and his like little rabies tag started jingling, and I was like, and I snapped out of it and was like, holy shit.
Whoa. That's awesome, dude.
And again, total accident. I didn't like try to sit down and do this, but it happened. And then I was like, that was weird, but who knows? Maybe I jerked my leg. I'm just coming up with all the real
Trying
probable.
to be a skeptic. Yeah, trying
exactly.
to explain it
So
away.
I'm like, that's whatever, So I do it again, and I just kind of he goes back to sleep, and I check my phone. It's like still 10 o'clock ish, whatever, and then I just kind of go back into that state. Same thing. It happens again, I'm in the back seat of that car. I'm looking out that mirror or window, and it's scenes again. And then all of a sudden I see a scene of a patio, and I don't know whose patio this is, but my dog's laying on it. And same thing. I make that conscious connection, like, oh, that's him. And then he looks up, we look at each other, and he popped up again in real life. And I was like, I'm done. I'm done. It freaked me out, but
Step aside, Caesar Milan.
It was weird, dude.
The Dream Walker.
Yeah. That's a new business for you. Let me meditate with your dog. I'm going to meditate with your dog, and we'll make a connection. But
we're going to have to teach your animals mindfulness.
Yeah. Oh, dude, it was weird. And I just hasn't happened since, but
Damn,
I mean,
man. Those weird synchronistic connections can just happen like that.
Yeah. And my dog, again, he's always like, he's my dog. He's obsessed with me. He follows me around. The other one follows my wife around, but like, he really like follows me around now. Like, he does not leave me alone. He's on my side all the time. He's like sitting I'm down in my basement. He's sitting right by the door waiting for me to come back up. Like, he's up my ass like nonstop. And I don't know, did that have something to do with it, this connection? Maybe, but
man. It sounds like you guys made like a spiritual connection, or you got to go through it together, you know. That's so crazy.
It's weird, and I have no real explanation for that. All I can say is possible, like out of body, like meditative. I don't know. I don't know what to call it.
That's wild, man. That's so cool.
Have you heard of anyone else having anything like that? Or
I mean, I've definitely heard of people that say that they can communicate with animals, and I think my wife has someone that she wants to have on my show, but yeah, I could look into that for sure. I mean, that's a really unique experience right there. It really does feel like you kind of tapped into something, maybe, at least like when you think about the idea of like, the external world possibly being somewhat of like a mirror image of the internal world or something like that. If he's your dog, I think man's best friend has a real strong meaning. That's not just some saying that we came up with. All these deep rooted archetypes and concepts seem to have a lot of great meaning that really relates back to a deep part of us. So perhaps there is a really deep connection, more than you're even conscious of, with that dog.
Right. I mean, you think about it. I mean, he's a German Shepherd, and he's
beautiful.
Kind of like looks like a wolf, aside from the markings and colors, but it just makes you wonder, like, I don't want to sound pretentious or anything, but like, what if primitive man, had that connection with because how did we domesticate dogs? When you think about it,
you had to, at some level, they had to befriend them.
Right.
Like they had to, not just like domestication as in they wouldn't kill you, but some level of emotional connection came pretty early on, I think. Don't you think?
Right. I have to think something like that, because it's like, how else? And just the fact that he so much looks like a wolf, he's huge, and things like that. It just makes you wonder, like, was some primitive man sitting there one day and just made this or met this spirit animal or something,
Dude, how about the fact that a lot of people pronounce it woof? They don't even say the L, and they just say woof. And it's like onomatopoeia for a dog's noise, a domesticated dog. You don't often hear wolf's woof.
Right.
But it's an interesting connect. I don't know. It's like, it could be completely meaningless, but many
nothing
people
with words are
pronounce
meaningless, dude.
I know. That's how I feel too.
Yeah.
I was trying to play devil's advocate, but it's almost useless at this point with all the phonetics I've been looking into, man. But so woof probably has some wicked primitive connection there. You know what I mean? It's probably why they named it that or something.
Who knows, dude? But,
who knows?
but it's fascinating to dive into those rabbit holes, because you're like, why do we domesticate dogs? Why didn't we domesticate raccoons? Raccoons are smart animals. Like, they'd probably be great. Right. Like, they'd probably be great little, pets and helpers and stuff. But no, we chose the wolf. And I'm sure, it has to do with hunting and things of that nature. But it's fascinating. But so that happened. And like the next day I told some people at work, and they're like, that's fucking weird, man. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to sit down, record this experience. And that was my first episode. And it just kind of took off from there.
Hell yeah, man. That's great, dude. Well, you've been doing a really good job, I think, man. You got quite a little following going, just like we all do. I mean, we're all kind of connected on in this journey of ours. And I'm glad I get to sit down with you finally and kind of get to know each other a little bit. So you have not just like this lucid dreaming and stuff like that. You have like quite a bit of paranormal experiences that I've heard you tell. And damn, I'd love for you to share some of that with my audience too, because
Definitely.
I've been working on this whole witness concept where from many different perspectives, we're all kind of getting a glimpse into this one deep truth about reality, and all of these different pathways can give away different pieces of the puzzle.
And that's the thing. It's like, whether it's an alien encounter, a ghost encounter, a demonic encounter, a Bigfoot encounter, whatever the thing is, it all kind of stems from the same, I'm not going to say origin, but it's like, it leads a lot of people to the same truth, whatever breadcrumb they pick up is what kind of leads them down. Because what I've noticed is people, I would go out on a limb and say everyone has had a paranormal experience throughout their life, whether or not you choose to accept that. A lot of people will just tune it out, like, oh yeah, that was weird, but it's just my mind playing tricks on me, or whatever, it was a dream, whatnot. But then there's people like us that have something weird happen and you're like, why did that happen? I gotta go on this spiritual journey now to figure out what the hell that was. But
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I it's undeniable when it happens. You can't look away anymore, and it's just beyond deniability. You can't do it anymore.
No, but yeah, man, like the paranormal, and I classify it as anything spiritual, anything just that you can't explain, like with conventional physics or whatever. So like another thing that happened to me, and this could be coincidence, and I don't think I've really talked about this at all, but this happened a couple months ago. I was taking a shower, right? My wife was downstairs. This is like early in the morning. Kids are still asleep and whatnot. And I'm taking a shower, and then I don't know what it was. I decided to just like sit down in the shower and just kind of let the water hit me, and just kind of started meditating. Because I mean, I think our kids are about the same age. My son is 4.
Oh, yep.
Yeah. So once he wakes up, like there's no time to do anything else.
No.
So,
and you feel guilty if you're trying to do anything else,
exactly. And it's just like, but so I was like, I'm going to try to meditate in here. Right. I'm just gonna, and I can't, my ADD is too much. I can't meditate like a normal person does, but I'm just sitting there and I get the same thing. I get the colors spinning, and I don't know why, but I was just like, you know what? I'm going to try to call my wife up here. I don't know why I did this, but so I just started saying her name in my head, and just saying, so-and-so, come up. And I did it. And then all of a sudden she started walking upstairs, and she came into the bathroom, opened the door, and I said, you came in. And she's like, why did I come in here? What was I looking for? She's like, I came up here to get something. And I was like, you're not going to believe this.
Oh, wow.
So again, it could be just coincidence, but she walked in and she's like, I came in here for something, but I don't know what it was. And I'm like, well, you ready to hear this weird one? And she's on board with it because she's experienced a lot of the weird shit with me too. So
that's good. It's so important to have a partner that can deal with the wacky shit.
Exactly. And something weird too, like I mentioned, like in the beginning there, like once I met her, the sleep paralysis pretty much stopped, but I have had it a few times with her, and she's actually had it a couple times since meeting me, which is weird. Wow. And this is what's so strange. She's had it, like we've been just sitting on the bed, I'm on like the phone or whatever, iPad, and she's next to me in a sleep paralysis, like attack, going through this. And it's like, I'm completely unaware of it,
Oh yeah. She's in the Matrix.
Like, right. And she's like, why did you wake me up? I'm like, you were just sleeping. Like there was nothing weird. She's like, I wasn't like kicking and screaming. I'm like, no.
Oh my God.
And it's the same thing with like her for mine. She's like, because in that state, I'm like fighting for my life to move, and she's like, no, you're just sleeping, nothing weird. So I don't know if there's some type of, are you in a different dimension? I'll just come out and say it. Like, are you in a different
Or you're just more aware of things that are always here or something.
Right. And it's bizarre, but there has been a time too. So like, it's hard to say because there has been a time too where she's like, there was something going on. You were like twitching and I was trying to wake you up and I couldn't wake you up. She's like, I was scared, you know?
Yeah. A friend of mine, I think, was saying that he could physically move, but just not enough to do anything or to wake himself up. He said he was like laying there, like, like hitting himself in the shoulder, trying to wake himself up and like, just like barely touching himself and it wasn't working or something like that. And it's interesting because the one lucid dream I ever had, I had all intentions of getting the hell out of it. You know, I had created a nightmare out of it just from the fact that I realized I was asleep. Even though I had learned about lucid dreams and I thought they were really intense, I finally was experiencing one and I wasn't conscious enough to go, hey, settle down, do whatever you want, control it or whatever, you know what I mean? So I guess that's why I was wondering about the sleep paralysis, if there was any connection, because it feels so similar in the sense where so many people are trying to get out of it the second they realize they're in it. You know what I mean? It's so weird.
And it, you know, ever since I was a little kid, it felt like I wouldn't say demonic when I was a little kid, but it feels evil, you know, like it feels,
really?
It's just like this gut wrenching, like just darkness. Like it's icky, you know, that's like the best way. Like you just want to get out as much as you can. Now I've had lucid dreams where it's just been a weird lucid dream. I was doing weird stuff in there and, you know, not weird, but you know, it's like jumping around, like abnormally high, doing, just being able to like open stuff that you wouldn't be able to move walls around, things like that, which is crazy to experience. But again, I don't know if there was any profound meaning in a lot of those. I think it was just kind of like they let you go in a video game and see what you could do. But the ones that turn nightmarish into sleep paralysis always have that like evil kind of like you went too far or like,
ooh,
you know, like
that's a key.
You unlock something you weren't supposed to, you saw something you weren't supposed to, or another. I was talking about this with a guest I had. It's like, is it like a transformation you have to go through? Like, if you make it through the sleep paralysis, then do you get to the next level? Are you now in the abyss? Can you like really start to manipulate things? Is this like a trial? Like, are you capable of, you know? And I try to.
That's an interesting.
I've never been able to get. I just wonder, like, is this because they kind of say like, you know, this world is hell, and you have to like to achieve enlightenment or nirvana or whatever it is. Like, you got to go through hell to get to the higher thing. So I always wonder, like, is this like a test on your soul? Kind of like, are you ready to, can you endure this enough and then move on to the next thing? Like, I don't know. I've never been able to get past that.
Now, if I'm correct, you said that you've never done psychedelics, right?
Right.
But you're very interested in them.
Yes. Yeah.
So your mind seems to work like you've done psychedelics, but you haven't. That's pretty intense.
Yeah. And it's just so fascinating to me because I want to eventually, and I got to be careful with what I say, but like, I do want to try them at some point, you know, when my kids are older and, you know, responsible adults, all that good stuff. But yeah, I do want to try them because having kids is one of the big reasons why I don't, because we don't have a lot of help, you know. Can't like
not only that, but I think I would be too worried about like, exactly. I don't know, maybe I'm putting too much preposition on to a trip that hasn't happened yet, but at the same time, anxiety tripping and bad tripping is terrifying as a single person with no responsibilities, you know, right. And you have to deal with ego loss and all that, the breakdown of all of your illusions. That's a lot easier as 20 something. I mean, hey, I know that a lot of people out there handle it plenty fine with plenty of kids and all that, but I can definitely agree with you on this one where, you know, I I have access to like DMT right now, and I'm still like, what's, I'm sure it would be a good thing, but how much do I want to drastically change my consciousness right now with a 4-year-old and the way the
Right.
world's going right now? Who knows?
Exactly. And that's like, I can't even smoke weed. Like I get so paranoid and stuff. So like, I don't drink either, but that's a different story for a different time. But yeah, I just having him in the house makes me way too paranoid, and I don't know.
Fair
But that's
enough.
just one day I plan to try them and see what it's like, because I've had other people too tell me like, dude, it sounds like you can kind of, do something similar to that, not necessarily a full DMT trip or whatever, but yeah, where were we? What was I going to say?
Well, it's real. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, you go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's not uncommon that like people that have a lot of lucid dreams, like my wife has almost all of her dreams sound like lucid dreams for the most part. She's telling me dreams. And I'm like, wait, was this a lucid dream? She's like, I guess, yeah, pretty much. Like they always kind of are. It's ridiculous. So like she has the mind that already kind of thinks psychedelically.
Yeah, and that's something. Yeah, so like I've had these vivid lucid dreams ever since I was a little kid. That's just how I dream. And when I don't have one, it's very superficial. It's just like, oh, I saw this person in the dream. It's like I don't remember it, but I usually remember them pretty well for the most part. And yeah, it's weird, but this is something too that I haven't ever talked about. But me and my wife experienced a lucid dream together one time, and
Whoa.
it's weird because we didn't talk about it right away. We talked about it like a month later or something. But so I don't know exactly if we had it on the same night, but I would assume we probably did, because just from trying to piece it together, it seems like it would have happened about the same time. But we had this weird dream where we were both like it was some Asian city, and we were taken underground, and they had these like monsters in cages. And we were like seeing them, and it was almost like a fight club for like these like cryptid like monster things. And she developed this weird connection with one, and I had the same dream. And
That's like, wild.
I don't know if there's anything more profound to go off of that, but like we were just talking one day, and it was like, she's like telling, and I was like, wait, did I tell you that dream? And she's like, no, this is a dream I had. And I was like, wait, you're telling me you had a dream where you were like, we went underground in, well, let's just say like Tokyo or something, like, and you saw like monsters in cages? And she's like, yeah. And we like described this monster kind of like similar to like something from Monsters Inc., the big blue guy, but it was more like a
kind of what I was picturing too.
Yeah, like a purplish gray hue with horns and things like that. And she's like, it was like a bull kind of, and I'm thinking like, is this like a minotaur type thing that we saw? Like I couldn't tell you, but like
it's Moloch.
Maybe, but it's just so weird to like have a similar dream as someone that you sleep next to. Yeah, dude. And then what was I gonna say? Lucid dream. We were talking about like lucid dreams going into sleep paralysis. So
yeah,
one I've had, this was I had one that happened a few weeks ago. We'll talk about that, and it has to do with crystals, because I just kind of got into crystals. Do you?
Interesting. My wife is very into crystals and different minerals and things like that. Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, I'm
a believer.
Yeah, and I was such a skeptic with them. Like,
dude, forever.
So
yeah, me too.
Like after I had the one encounter sleep paralysis thing, I guess I can tell that one too, but I had one that led me on a spiritual journey that kind of led me into like the Hebrew roots movement type thing, and I got big into that for a while, and everything was satanic, everything was devil worship. I was like, no, nothing occult, nothing, everything's witchcraft, get it all out of the house. And of course my wife was a yoga teacher and into all this shit, so that caused a little bit of a little strife in the relationship. But so she didn't have, because I was a son of a bitch, and I can admit that, we all have our problems, but
hey,
I've come around.
We get through shit,
Yeah, exactly. But so she kept all her crystals obviously and stuff, and she had them in our closet, and she just had them like in a bowl. And one day over the summer, my son was playing in our closet and he like pulled down some boxes, and of course the bowl of crystals fell out on the floor. And I'm like picking them up and I'm like, whatever. And I pick one up and it was a piece of hematite. And I had this like Lord of the Rings Gollum moment where I was like, my precious. Like I just picked it up and I felt good. It was the weirdest thing. I just felt very calm. Like I was kind of mad that he pulled all these boxes down, and I picked this rock up and I was like, oh, that's cool. You know, it was just kind of like this thing, and I put them all away. And then I kind of went back a few times, like into the closet to like look at this little rock. It was weird. And then one day I like talked to her. I was like, can we go to a crystal shop? And she's like, yes, finally. Thank you. Let's go.
Welcome. You finally arrived.
Right. And then of course I'm extreme with everything. So now it's like balls to the wall. There's crystals all over the place. But I had this very weird lucid dream with crystals. And I was holding, I don't know if your audience knows about stuff, but I was holding a piece of indigo gabbro, which is also called mystic merlinite, which is supposedly like a very magical stone that like people that practice magic, which I don't, but like they use this, and it came with a set that I got, whatever. I'm holding this rock and I just fell asleep with it in my hand. And I had this most bizarre dream. So I went to this place, and it's funny because like Ron from New England just put an episode out about dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And he talked about this, and we were on another show together and we kind of talked about it too. But in a lot of these lucid dreams, I go to places that there's like a whole history that I have in these dreams. Like I know the background information. I've been to the same places multiple times and things like this. And once I wake up, I couldn't tell you like what it is, but when I'm there, I know like, oh, that room is down this way. And the place I go to a lot is this, I'm going to call it like a university. I don't know, it's big white building with red carpets, and I'm sure there's some occult connections with that, but like I've been there multiple times in dreams, and it's always for something. I'm always there to take a test, and it's the weirdest thing. And I'm always there to take a test, and there's something that's distracting me from getting to the location I need to get to. So in this particular dream, I'm holding onto this rock in the real world, and I'm in this place, and I'm walking to take some test. I couldn't tell you what test it was or anything like that. I don't know. But as I'm waiting in this like area, and there's just bookshelves everywhere. So I'm like looking through the books, and I can feel them. I'm picking them up, looking at them. And then I look at the bottom shelf, and there's just like displays of crystals everywhere. Right.
Oh.
So I'm like, huh, that's cool. And I'm like looking at them. And I in the dream, I reach in my pocket and I have all these rocks in my pocket that are mine. And I can visually identify them and connect them like, oh, these are all my rocks, right? So I'm looking, and then they have these drawers, like a thing, and there's just drawers of like loose rocks in there, right? So I'm like looking through them and like thinking about stealing some of them and whatnot. And like then all of a sudden they call my name, right? In this dream, they call my name, and I'm like, oh shit, and I look down, and all my rocks, my personal rocks that were in my hand, are now mixed in all these drawers. And I have like 30 seconds to like try to find all my rocks. And I'm like trying to, by feel, grab all these rocks and like get them. And I got most of them. And then I woke up.
Holy shit.
It was just such a bizarre dream, because I woke up, like one of the rocks I found was the rock I was holding in my hand.
Oh, that's wild.
And it's like, how the hell do you explain that? Is this just like,
that's always like the theme of lucid dreams, that there's a connection from one place to the other. That was the only one I had, was a strong connection, where at the very end of it, so I was in my room, and my room looked all futuristic. Like I had a flat screen TV, but there were no flat screen TVs yet. It was pretty crazy. And like I couldn't open my windows, and I couldn't open the shades. That's what it was. And I would feel the back of my head, and I could feel a pillow there, and I could feel my eyes closed, even though I was like looking in my room. So I was very aware that I was touching my real face, like while sleeping. And it was like taking that experience into the dream with me and using that in the dream. It was very bizarre. And then finally my phone rang, and I picked up the phone, and it said like, if you'd like to wake up, press 1 or something like that. It was some cue to wake up and to make the conscious decision in the dream to do so. And so I like did whatever the thing was, press 1 or whatever. And immediately my real phone rang next to my bed and I woke up.
Yeah,
It's like, it's too much, man.
That's insane. But
it's not that it has to be like a coincidence or a synchronicity. It's almost like it's just two different ways of looking at the same thing. It's mundane only once you realize that everything is like synchronous. It's all together.
Yeah. And that's something I've kind of like, because when you try to explain a synchronicity to someone, it's like, you know, like, oh, we're driving in the car and I see the word I'm looking for on a sign. Like to anyone else, they're like, okay, that's a you know, big deal.
Yeah,
but
it takes
it's
like 5 or 6 to get them really looking.
Right. But it's like, they're so personal to you at that moment.
Yeah.
That's why I think it's, you know, I think it's done by design, you know, to keep us kind of confused or
the universe is always winking at us.
Yeah. But it's like, try to explain that. Oh, I was driving down the road and I saw the word heart on the back of a car. And that's the word I needed to hear at that moment. And it's like, dude, okay, whatever. But like
you're just grasping at anything.
Right. But it's like, no, to me, I needed that right there. And that worked. So, but
that goes right into the idea of like the dehumanization that we're going through, because most of it is about spirituality. Even if you're not religious, they're just trying to take any interior experience really out of the equation on that level anyway, that meaningful connection with the rest of the world. I don't know. Yeah. I see it. And we push back against it.
Exactly. And dude, it's so like we went out to eat today. New York just put in a mask mandate again. And like we went to the store and whatnot. My wife's like trying to put the mask on. I'm like, it doesn't matter. And like, I'm not wearing one and no one said anything. And I'm like, see, it doesn't matter. That's good. Yeah, but I don't want to get into that topic. We're talking about the paranormal tonight. But
yeah, the good stuff.
Yeah, so it's just
the connections are insane. You know, the fact that there's no denying it that our dreams are I don't know what they are, but they're clearly connected in a very visceral way to the physical plane, and it's really weird. And I've heard. There was a doctor a while back on Joe Rogan, like a year ago, talking about dreaming and sleep and the importance of sleep and everything, and mentioned marijuana and how like pot smokers do not get the sleep that they're supposed to get. And I'm like, shit. And I don't dream hardly ever because of that. And I should probably cut down or something so I can dream again, because I'm sure it's healthy to do so.
Yeah. I mean, even just from like a tolerance perspective, you know, just take a break once in a while and just record it. See if you do dream more, you know?
Yeah. Cause I remember I used to have like they weren't lucid dreams, but they were kind of what you were saying about how you had that history in one place. Yeah. And you can go back to places. Like I had this one, and it wasn't necessarily a positive thing. It was a very like freakishly horrific sci-fi nightmarish kind of thing. But like, it was always this one gigantic house that I was always able to, and I've had that dream since I was like a little kid, and I would still go back to it as an adult sometimes. It's just ominous to have that other world in your life. And the more you pay attention to it, the more vivid it becomes, you know?
Yeah. And you're not the first. I mean, I've talked to dozens of people that have the same story. It's like, oh yeah, there's this house, and a lot of people, you know, it's their childhood house or whatever, but it's different. It's not exact. And it's like, why do you go back to these places? Is this, I don't know. Is it another reality? Are we crossing
a past life or something?
Past life or a parallel universe where things are just slightly tweaked, and so like you have this memory of it, but it's just a little different. Or
and you know, we always talk about predictive programming in this community, but honestly, I see a lot of like messaging about this stuff in movies more than anything else. Like people take the Truman Show and they start talking about the firmament, but not me. I'm kind of thinking more on a psychedelic level. Like I remember the experience of kind of really being able to step outside of my physical life and be like, oh, whoa, this is 1% of my existence. and I had no idea. It's people take it so literally sometimes, but the Truman Show can be taken on so many different levels,
Right. I mean, I see it as like a breaking out of the matrix. A lot of people
Sure.
put the religious aspect behind it, but it's like it's breaking free from the system, and like you said, there's 100 interpretations you can make with that movie, but I kind of look at it as very like uplifting. Like he was able to break out of that routine he was in. But
yeah,
man,
and it's cool too, because Ed Harris is kind of the representation of the ego, because he's the one that's in charge, or the illusion of control anyway, and he's the one that's like frantic about his reputation and holding things together and everything.
Right, but once he makes that conscious decision to stop, you see he really doesn't have any control over it. So it's pretty cool.
And I'm just seeing this for the first time in my head. I'm thinking back to it now. Like, Ed Harris doesn't like stay the antagonist. He's not like furious, like, damn you, Truman. He like sheds a tear. He's like, good for you, Truman, or something like that, Right. So it's like, I like the message. I don't know if you can get down with this or not, but like a lot of people like to say kill your ego, but I like to say hug your ego instead. And kind of like settle it on down,
Right. Well, that's something I've kind of noticed, like, with my wife being in like the yoga community and stuff. It's like these people preach this, kill your ego, but then that's in the classroom. You know what I mean? They don't actually live by it.
Plus, it's like, your ego's embedded in you. It's a
right.
part
And
of you.
I think you need a little bit of ego, like, unless you can't just be sitting there and just letting the world pass you by. You have to kind of have a little bit of individuality and things like that. And I think it's definitely a balance. I think you should keep your ego in check for sure, but to completely kill it, I think it's
the wrong message.
Yeah. And again, it goes back to word magic. Like, you really want to kill it. You really want to kill your ego?
Keep saying that, everybody. Yeah, no, do your hippie movement. No problem. We're not going to stop you. As long as you think you should be violently murdering a big part of yourself that's connected to this physical world that we're about to try to take away.
Right. And that's the thing. Like, when I hear kill your ego, I think sheep. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, take away all your individuality, take away your, just that little spark you have just to be one with the universe. Well, I want to be one with the universe, but I also want to be like in the, you know what I mean? Like, I want to experience it too. I don't want to just be a star.
It's the Trinity.
Yeah. So to me, the kill your ego is, I think it's impossible too. I don't think it's ever possible to truly do it. And if you do, it's good for you, I guess. I don't know. Maybe,
maybe that's just for death. Right.
Right. But like, maybe I agree. I think suppress it a little bit, learn to walk in someone else's shoes and whatnot, but just to completely take it away, I don't know. But again, that's something like philosophical you'd have to really dive deep into. But I agree with you. I think the word magic, like kill your ego, is just being part of the herd. Like, I don't want to be part of the herd. I want to experience everything. And maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? But
I like it. I think you shined more light on what I was saying. Like, it's shine your individual light, and all of us in a community, all of our individual lights kind of make that cumulative.
Right. Like, look at it as like a mosaic painting. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Each piece is important. Like, let your light shine. Don't completely kill your ego. Just, be yourself, and be yourself unapologetically almost,
Absolutely.
Definitely
live
keep
in your
yourself in
truth.
check. Yeah. But just, I don't like the word kill. I'm trying to really, after reading word magic, I'm trying to really be like conscious of everything I say. And it's impossible to do too, but you have your moments and stuff. And that's like another thing too. People like message me sometimes because I talk about like these type of things, and they're like, oh, how do you meditate? I'm like, dude, I don't really meditate. Like, sometimes I lay down and I see images in my head, and I can calm myself down. I'm better at it, but like, I'm not a guru by any means. Like, this is a personal journey you got to go through yourself, and
definitely. And everybody does it their own way, of course.
Exactly. But
it does help to have kind of multiple glimpses to the other side, for sure. Like, you've had your experiences. My wife has had a number of her experiences where, it didn't take like a near-death experience or anything necessarily to to help you become aware of that other side naturally, in your life. It's pretty cool. Some of us don't have that opportunity. I felt like I was a very robotic person until I consciously chose to take psychedelics. And that's what, it was like a slap to the face. Like, oh, you thought you were about to get high? Nope. But it's like some people have these experiences in their life that really like make them turn their heads and go, holy shit, there's a lot more going on here. Like, I think I heard you tell a story about seeing your an image of your grandfather who had passed or something like that. Am I mistaken?
So there was, I think I talked about that on Janet's show. It's when I was 5 years old. This is very weird. So this was, I would say, my first, at least conscious paranormal experience. And I didn't know it at the time. And I didn't know it until about 3 years ago that it was even a paranormal experience. So I was I had to be like 4 or 5. So it was me and my brother. We were playing out in the snow and we were like jumping off our swing set into the snow and everything. And all of a sudden, like, I looked down and there was this old man walking into our backyard. And it freaked me out. So I like ran inside. I left my brother there because I'm a good big brother. I ran inside screaming, Mom, there's someone in the backyard. There's someone in the backyard. And then of course she runs downstairs and she looks and there's no one there. So they just write it off as like, it is what it is. But then that's been a reoccurring like memory I've had my whole life. And I always think about it. And like the guy's face was always slightly blurry. Like when I remembered it, like I couldn't quite see the face. And my son is named after my great grandfather. And we were, after he was born, we didn't tell anyone the name and whatnot, but like until he was born. And then we were just kind of looking through old photos and whatnot. And dude, like there was this picture of my great grandfather in his hunting jacket. And it's like, as soon as I saw that picture, I saw he was wearing jeans, this like red checked hunting jacket and everything. And like, as soon as I saw the picture, I was like, holy shit, that was the guy that walked in our backyard. And it just clicked in my head. And like, I'm asking my mom about it. She's like, I don't remember you ever doing that. And I'm like, no, this happened. Cause you start to go crazy after a while. Like maybe it was a dream. I don't know.
Right.
But as soon as I saw that picture, I was like, holy shit, that was him. And it's just weird.
And
the only thing I can like,
at that point.
Yeah. So he died in 91. I never met him. And he died before I was born. But it's like, the only thing I can think is like, maybe it was like during hunting season. And this was just like a memory on loop because he was in his hunting clothes. And like my dad would have hung a deer up in the backyard. So who knows? Was this just like a memory playing through or like the tape of reality? That because I try to think about like, why would he be walking through with his hunting jacket on, and
yeah, it's so random. It's such a specific image,
but
that's interesting.
It's bizarre, dude. And yeah, so that one happened. And then I had another one. This is like a little one, but when my grandfather died, he used to fly pigeons. That was like one of his hobbies. He had pigeons and stuff. So when he died in 2009, they released pigeons at his funeral. And we drove to the cemetery and everything. And the pigeons were in the back of the car with us, like the crates that had the pigeons in there. Mm-hmm. And so funeral goes on. They go to release the pigeons and 2 birds would not fly out of the crates. Like people were shaking it and everything. And like, if you've ever walked up on a pigeon, they scatter real quick.
Oh yeah.
These birds would not come out of the crate. And so they just left them in there and then they put them back in the car and we got back in there. And I'm like, this is our grandparents here. Like they're sitting with us. And again, is it a coincidence? Maybe. I don't, but it's just weird that like these 2 birds did not fly out of this crate at the funeral. So to me, I took it as a paranormal experience. Like this is not necessarily, it was my grandparents as the birds.
Symbolic,
Yeah, just like a symbolic, like
it could be the universe giving you, throwing you a bone,
Exactly.
Saying hi, like, hey, I'm here. We're all here together,
Right. And that's how I took it. And my brother, who's very similar to me, very connected to this stuff, the same way. He took it the same thing. And everyone else just was like, that's weird that the birds didn't fly out. So yeah, it's bizarre, man. But yeah, I've had quite a few. You can get into a couple of them. Which
Sure,
one
man. Yeah, whatever you want to tell, man. I'm open to hearing anything. I mean, I can riff on all of it.
All right,
I
cool.
swear, man, that's the whole point of what I've been trying to do, is because people tell me paranormal experiences, alien encounters, and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that, like from a psychedelic experience that had nothing to do with what they had, you know? It's the synchronicities are just really, really interesting, and they don't necessarily lead to some big truth here in the external world. I think it has everything to do with connecting us down to a very deep perennial level, you know? So yeah, share away, man, whatever you'd like to share.
Well, I guess I'll say the most recent ones, and then
Cool.
I mean I can tell you the one too. I've told it a few times on other shows. So the one that kind of woke me up, but
Oh, I'd love to hear that one. Hell yeah.
all right. So this one, I'm sure you've heard it. I talked about it on
I
the
probably
Weird
did.
Yeah. So basically, I'll just do like a kind of quick wrap up. But
Sure.
it was the night before I was about to graduate. I was putting together my portfolio for teaching and whatnot, student teaching. Fell asleep at like 4 o'clock in the morning, and I just passed out. And I was in this wild lucid dream, and I was like jumping around, like literally flying through the air, right? Just jumping and running and flying. And then I jumped and I hit my head on the sky, and it made
yeah.
So
That's
it just
nuts.
boom, and it so to me, I'm like, what the hell? I just hit my head on the sky. Like this was afterwards, obviously. But so in this dream, I hit my head, boom, and I wake up and I'm on a couch, a white couch in this like weird house. It's like a house with glass windows, like glass doors everywhere, and I can see woods outside and everything. Everything's white, like creepily white. And this lady comes up to me and she's like, "Oh, good, you're awake." And I'm like, "Where am I?" And she's like, "You were in a car accident. I'm so happy to see you've been out for a while. Like, we're just happy to see you're awake." And I'm like, "I wasn't in a car accident. I was just having a dream where I was jumping around. You know, I'm fully conscious of this. I can feel everything. I feel the sheets on me." And she's like, "No, you're in a car accident. You have to lay down." And I'm like trying to get up. And I'm like, "No, I gotta get out of here. This is weird." And like, I felt bad. Like it felt very ominous. It was creepy. And I didn't like the fact that she was telling me like I couldn't get up. And I'm like, "No, I got to get out of here." And she's like, "No, no, 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 no." And as I'm saying, "No, I need to leave," her face starts morphing. Whoa. As she's like telling me not to leave. And so it starts small. And I have another story where I saw a girl's face morph right in front of me in the real world. I can tell you that.
Holy shit.
But so anyway, so didn't look like this though. But so the best way I can describe it is it kind of looked like Darth Maul mixed with like an orc from Lord of the Rings, like the Uruk-hai orcs, just that like kind of human, big nose, just nasty teeth, very demonic looking. Mm-hmm. And just like brown, grayish skin. And as I'm resisting and trying to get up, her face is morphing more. And finally it like fully transforms into this grotesque face. And she's like, "You're not leaving." And I'm like, I am leaving. And I get up off the couch and I go to run. And then I snap out of it and I'm in a conference room. And I'm in this conference room and I'm like, they're handing me a piece of paper and I'm like foggy, not really paying attention. There's like 10 or 12, what I call generic politicians standing around in black and white suits. And as they're handing me this paper, I'm like, I'm just about to like sign my name. And then I snap into it. I'm like, "Wait a minute. No. What am I signing here?" And they're like, "Oh, you have to sign the deals. You know, everything's all set. You have to sign." I'm like, "No, I'm not signing." And I can't see what the writing says on the contract in this dream, but I can feel the clipboard. I can feel the paper. I feel the pen in my hand and everything. And they're like right up in my face now. They're like, "Come on, we've worked so hard. You got to, we're going to sign this thing." And I'm like, "No, I'm not going to sign it." And then the same thing starts happening. The more I resist, all their faces start to kind of morph into that same demonic face. The only difference is with this one, they all had like different color paint, like almost like war paint. You know how like Darth Maul has like the reddish stuff? It looked kind of like that, but it was like, you could tell it was painted on, you know, like over their eyes and stuff. And there was red, turquoise, silver, orange, all like all these different colors, and it just that feeling again. It's like, I got to get out of here. I got to get out of here. This is wrong. I'm freaking out now. And I'm like, I'm not signing. And they're like, you have to sign it. And then I say no. And I like go to push away from the table. I push away and I snap. I wake up in my bed and I'm in full sleep paralysis. I can't move. And I was frozen there for a couple minutes. And when I looked at the clock, so I fell asleep around 4:10 in the morning. When I woke up, it was like 5:30-ish. So I wasn't asleep that long, but dude, that one screwed me up for months. And, people were like, oh, it's just a nightmare. You're getting ready to graduate and sign your life away to be a teacher. That's all that was. And maybe it was, but that led me into start questioning everything. That started
you
that
down.
whole journey. Mm-hmm.
Well, because it seems like it's such a metaphor for yeah, I mean, fine, maybe it was partially just like a personal nightmare where subconscious fears or something, but that's the thing. It always takes a personal thing to kind of trigger someone into seeing life in an alternative fashion,
And just the fact that it was like, this was the first time that it was like a lucid dream. Like, it's usually just a lucid dream, wake up, sleep paralysis. This was a lucid dream into another lucid dream that felt very real and like very personal. Like, just, no, you're not leaving. Then another one on top of it, and then the sleep paralysis. So
right.
To me, it's like 3 dreams and then a sleep paralysis thing. I just,
plus
that one stuck with me.
The lucid dreaming itself kind of, I don't know. It seems like it's more than just subconscious static fear, where it's more of a lucid experience. There's usually more to it in that situation. So who knows? Maybe you were meant to start your show and meant to get going on all these things,
Yeah. So that one happened back in 2013. So
okay, so that was more of a premonition for all of this coming,
Yeah, and then, like I said, and I've seen those characters, not the woman that's face changed. I haven't seen her again in a dream, but I've seen those like businessmen type things in probably 6 or 7 different lucid dreams, very similar scenarios. They're trying to get me to sign something, and after like the second or third time I encountered them, I just learned to like ignore them pretty much and just like, no, not interested. And then they just kind of go away. But they always like approach you in like a group, and they're all walking. And like, I've literally seen them in a lucid dream, and I've been like, no, not interested.
You should try to fire them all next time.
Right.
You're all fired.
They're all fired. And then they're like, no, we're your spirit guides, asshole. We're trying to help you.
Stop seeing us as the enemy.
Right.
Can
We're
you
not
put us
demons.
in something nicer looking than these suits?
Right. But it's crazy. So that one was insane. And I've had a couple other ones.
Yeah.
But then I had the one that happened in August 2020. And this is the one that like fucked me up big time for several months. It happened in August. And then I had another sleep paralysis dream. It's happened on August 4th. And then the next one I had wasn't until April 4th, 2021. And it's just weird that they happened on months that start with A on the 4th of that month. I don't know if there's any significance behind that. It's just a weird observation I noticed. But the one that happened in August was very bizarre. You've heard this one, right?
I probably did.
Okay.
If you told it on with New York Patriot
I'm
or
pretty
Janet.
sure I said it on, yeah, but this one, I'll just say it because
go for it. My audience may not. Some people in my audience may have not heard it. So
right. So if you've heard it, I'm sorry, but this one was.
Hey, it
wild.
always is a different take from show to show,
Exactly. So what happened was I got home from work. It was just a normal day. It was kind of stormy a little bit, but like about to storm. It didn't actually thunderstorm. And I get home, dog's going crazy. Kids are going nuts. It's just a normal day. It's like 4:30 in the afternoon. And this is just kind of weird. Might not have anything to do with it, but I went to go let the dog out. I opened up the sliding glass door, and the second I opened it, it sounded like a shotgun blast went off. And I'm like, the hell? And I looked up, and in our backyard, we have like a fenced backyard, and then there's a sidewalk on the other side of it. And there's like a power line or a telephone pole or whatever. And I just happened to look up at the right time, and I saw one of the breaker arms just snap off the thing. The wind just blew it off, and that was the loud pop I heard.
Damn.
And again, maybe nothing to that, but it was just weird that I happened to look up at the moment, and then of course all the power in the house went out. And what's weird too is like it was the house right behind us, our house, and then the house next to us are the only three houses that lost power. Which is it's kind of weird, but again, whatever.
Something showed up that sucked a whole lot of energy into one spot.
Yeah, it's just bizarre because usually you see like a whole street out or something.
Yeah, whole grid.
But so that happened, and like my stepson, he was 10 at the time. He's 11 now, and my son was 3. And my stepson just started freaking out. Like, the power's out. I'm like, dude, relax. It's 4:00 in the afternoon. Like, it's still light out, you know? He's like freaking out. Like, oh my, we lost power. We have to find the light. And I'm like, dude, relax. We got it. And I have all my camping and prepper shit. So I'm not too worried about it, you know? But I don't have a generator. So that sucks.
Yeah, neither do I.
So anyway, he's freaking out. And we're like, all right, let's just go out because maybe it'll be back. I call National Grid and like, you've got a power outage. They're like, yep, we know about it. Okay. So we go out, we just spend the day. We get some like Chinese food and whatnot and whatever. We drive around until my 3-year-old falls asleep. And it's around like 8:00-ish. He fell asleep. So we get back. Now the house is pretty dark, set up all the lights and everything. I put my son up in his bed and my stepson's still freaking out. And he's like, I'm like, whatever, dude, just sleep in our room tonight. You know, it's fine. Just sleep on the floor. I set up a sleeping bag and everything for him. Do the nightly routine and there's nothing to do. So we go to sleep probably around 9:30, 10:00-ish, whatever. And I'm sleeping and then all of a sudden I wake up and I hear the door to my son's room opening and I hear him walking out and I'm not thinking anything of it. He's 3 years old. He used to do this all the time. He climbs into bed with us, whatever.
Oh yeah.
So I hear this and I'm like, okay, he's coming in. But what's so weird is like, I didn't know it at the time, but I believe I was in a sleep paralysis state when this happened because I heard it happening, but I didn't like get up and like, usually I'll like run out in the hallway and grab him and like walk him in so he doesn't go down the stairs or something like that. But I was like, okay, he'll be in a second. And I heard his feet walking on the floor and I heard, you know, him open our door and come in. And again, I didn't look. I was just like, all right, he's coming over. And I hear him walk around the bed and he climbs over to my side, climbs on top of me, literally like kneed me in the balls. So I felt that. And I'm like, come on. And then he gets in between us. But again, this is what's weird. I didn't look at him. You know, I was just kind of like, at the time, I just was like, I'm too tired. I'm not going to do it. But I really, after thinking about it, I believe I was in like a paralysis state. So he gets in between us and he makes himself comfortable and he's a big kid and he starts like kicking me. And I'm like, knock it off, you know, like normal, you know, he'll kick us, you know, a couple times, whatever.
Oh,
but
yeah.
now he's like really kicking me. And I'm like, what's going on? And then he's like, doing like leg lunges, like just pushing me. And I feel myself sliding off the bed. And then I'm like, I'm trying to catch myself and I caught myself, but I really didn't move. It's weird to explain this. So like, I feel myself sliding off the bed and I stop and I turn and look to say like, stop, you know, knock it off. And then as I turn, it's just this massive black hole in the center of the bed screeching. And it sounds like a ring wraith from Lord of the Rings, that high-pitched squeal. And it feels like I'm being hit on the side of the head with 2 leaf blowers, just like with this high-pitched squeal. And I'm just completely frozen at this point, right? And it's just in the bed, like it's all the light in the room is just sucked into this black hole. And I feel myself literally being pulled into it. Like I can almost like feel like the atoms in the skin in my face just being pulled and sucked into this hole. And I'm like doing whatever I can to like hold on to the bed. And it's like, I just scream out, Jesus Christ. And it just poof, disappeared.
Wow.
And like, it just stopped. And I like saw my wife on the bed, like literally looked like a puff of smoke, just poof. And then I was completely unfrozen. I can move. I got up. I'm like, I'm feeling the bed. I run into my son's room. He's sound asleep.
Holy shit. That's crazy, man.
And
That's
I didn't check the
creepy.
time. I didn't check the time, but I like ran, I checked him. I'm like pacing around. Like I made a lot of noise at this point, and my wife didn't wake up. My stepson didn't wake up. Nothing happened. And I was up for the rest of the night, and that shit just really screwed me up for several months. I didn't even tell my wife about it until like around Christmas time, like December.
Damn.
And
that's intense, dude.
I,
Anything with kids, right? Because like now that you're a dad, it's like, I mean, I was a huge horror movie fan. I still am, but I got to be real fucking careful. I got to be careful with like detective shit, like anything with like kid violence or kid death, and of course, every horror movie, it's like the kid's possessed. It's so I can't even go there anymore. So having like a lucid dream where your kid turns into a black hole, like a screaming death black hole, that's pretty scary.
Yeah. And dude, like I was terrified, but then I was like pissed off. Like I was pissed that it like, because to me, it was like, this thing didn't get to me for so many years, whatever this entity or whatever it is that was torturing me through sleep paralysis through all my life. Because I do believe it's some type of entity or energy or negativity. And it's always got the same feel, you know, it was either standing in the corner of my room when I was a kid, or it was on top of me, like making me feel like I couldn't breathe. And it was the same thing, you know, it was the same thing. And I was just so pissed that it like pretended to be my son to like get to me, because I was like in this vulnerable state where like, I'm not going to even think twice that he's coming in our room at this time. And yeah, so that it went from like horror to like pissed off to like all these different emotions. And then I'm like, well, what the hell? Like, I thought I was doing all this like spiritual work to keep this shit away. Like, why is this back now? You know? And it was crazy, but and of course it happened like during 2020, and I was already kind of awoke to all the nonsense that was going on, you know, last year, but it just really like put it into perspective for me. Like, we're done. Like, there's bigger shit that's going on in the world. You know what I mean? And I don't know how to explain that one. That one just, it messed me up for a while. I can remember it vividly. It's never going to go away. You know, it's not.
Yeah.
People that said it was just like a nightmare, I'm like, no, this wasn't a nightmare. I physically felt him climb on the bed. You know, I physically felt myself being pulled into this thing. And yeah, that's what got me looking into all these other podcasts and like trying to figure out like, all right, I know this is a spiritual thing. I've known it's a spiritual thing, but like saying the name Jesus Christ made it disappear. And I'm not like a hardcore Christian or anything. You know, I was for a little bit at a time, but it's just, it's bizarre.
I think names, symbols, they have meaning and they have power, you know, especially when it comes to intention. And hey, maybe a name like Jesus Christ with all the collective intention behind it is powerful, you know. And you know, even if the demons are in your own head, you know, that doesn't make it any less real. And you can kind of do away with it with symbols and words and intention that has worked for so long, you know.
Right.
That's why I think people get confused about all the ancient symbols and stuff like that, and they call it pagan and witchcraft and evil and all that. And I can't see it like that, because it's just these are like symbols that represent like the mathematics of the universe and sacred geometry. And it's like, I don't know. Yeah,
it's just been perverted throughout time. It's just, you know, you take anything, you take a piece of paper and you say it's evil, or an evil group uses a piece of paper to do something bad. Like, people are going to associate that with something evil. But yeah, it's just that one screwed me up. And that was kind of
I
like,
can see how that one kind of dragged you into this world more. Yeah.
Yeah. So I started like, and then from that point on, I started noticing other just little paranormal shit going on around. And it really, like, I'm not going to say it was an awakening, because I've always been kind of aware of this stuff, but it like intensified after that. And I'm noticing all this weird stuff. And we had, you know, my wife had an incident where she was like just upstairs closing the blinds at night, and she thought my son was standing in the hallway behind her. She saw the reflection of like a little kid, and she went and turned around and nothing was there. He was sleeping in the bed. Yeah. And
That's
it's
crazy.
like, so I just, again, I think it's got to be this same like negative energy that just was.
That's how I described it too. There was this thing that happened to me, not even to me, but there was just this negative feeling going on in the house at one time. And the cats are always going nuts in the middle of the night. That's where they come to life. My family has 3 cats and they're all insane. And they battle each other and chase each other and stuff like that. And there's 2 black ones and 1 orange one. One black one's too chubby to like be nimble through all the chairs and stuff. So the other 2 will mess with each other and jump through the rungs of the chairs and stuff in the dining room. And so I'm just like sitting on the couch and it's nighttime, that the lights off in the dining room, and those 2 are going at it in there. And I'm seeing the 3rd cat in there too. So there's 2 black cats and the orange cat all going crazy under there. And then I see my chubby cat walk into the room and I'm like, wait a minute. I swear to God, I saw 3 cats in there and it's not the first time this has happened. And it's weird. My wife and I and my son, when he was really little, lived in an apartment before this. And there was some creepy shit that went on. And the only things that really I noticed from my perspective, things with the cats, like weird little, I don't know, glitches with the cats going on and stuff like that. They're in tune with something for sure. I had a cat that used to just stare at shit that wasn't there. Like, dude, what are you looking at, man?
Yeah, and dude, it's weird because we had our dog before we got the new dog, and then the next new dog. He was a 14-year-old cockapoo, and like the most chill dog ever. He would bark at like if someone came to the door, but he would just sit at the top of our stairs after this encounter happened with the sleep paralysis and everything. He would just sit at the top of the stairs and just growl sometimes. And it's like, this is, again, he was a chill dog, didn't do anything, but every once in a while he would just sit there and growl, and we're like, oh, that's not good.
Well, he gave me the chills.
Yeah, and I can't explain it. And it's weird because the hallway he would growl in is the same hallway she saw that thing in the mirror, you know? And so it's like you walk up the stairs, we have a bathroom, it's the kids' room, and then our room. And it's all got this same hallway. And I had one too. This happened last year, either around this time or January-ish. And that's when all the kind of weird missing time stuff started happening too. And I got my son to bed. He was asleep, and I was in the bathroom taking my contacts out, brushing my teeth and everything. And we have a big mirror in there. And if you're looking in the mirror, like out of the corner of my eye, I can see my son's door, you know, like through the mirror. And I see his door open, and I'm like, you know, he's up again. Yep. And I'm like, great. And so I go to turn around, like I see it open, and I hear him coming out, and I'm like, I see this out of the corner of my eye. Now, granted, I did have my contacts out. So, but I saw something moving. And when I turned around to look, nothing's there, and he's sleeping in the bed. And it just sends that like shiver up your spine, and you're just like, it's weird.
My son used to talk about an owl outside of his house. And I know you've talked about owls, and I've actually heard you reference the 4th. Well, maybe you didn't reference the 4th kind, the movie, but you've referenced the accounts of people mistaking like entities for white owls and things like that. Have you seen that movie, The 4th Kind?
I haven't.
That was creepy because it's kind of like a fictional. It's a little silly because they're like, this is totally true, and it wasn't true at all. But you know, about alien abduction. But it's true that many people have seen this white owl, and it was very creepy because he was like 2 years old, and I asked him, you know, where does the owl go? Is he outside? And he would be like, inside. Like, okay, what does the owl do? And he would point to his own head and go like, you know, make this weird, like, I don't know, scramble out of thing. And I'm just like, honey, what's happening? And I actually reached out to a dude that wrote a book about this, about how these, God, I wish I could remember his name. His name is Mike something. I'll have to maybe put it in the show notes or something if I remember, because his work is fascinating too, because there's so many accounts of people experiencing that. And I don't know, man, he doesn't see it anymore, but he does kind of vaguely remember it, saying it and remembering it. Ugh.
Yeah, and that's I'll tell that story too. So this happened twice with my son. So like we got the fenced in yard and everything. So it's fenced on one side, and then there's trees, a row of trees between us and the neighbor's house. And he was just outside playing one day, and me and my wife looked out there, and he's just like sitting in the yard looking up at the tree, just talking. And we're like, okay, that's weird, but like whatever. He was 3 years old at the time. Like, yeah, they do weird shit sometimes. But then so I went out and I was like, who are you talking to? He said, I'm talking to the owl in the tree. And I like look up and there's nothing there. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, it weirded me out, but I didn't think too much of it. And then it happened again, like a couple of weeks later. He said it's a very similar thing. He's playing in like his little sandbox, and he just stops and he starts looking up, and he's just talking. And I was like, who are you talking to? And he's like, oh, the owl. And no owl. It was middle of the day, or not middle of it, but like late afternoon, sun's still out. Owls typically don't come out that time, but I don't know. And then I got another, like he used to have night terrors when he was real little.
That's so sad.
Like it was total like sleep paralysis too, because he would just be screaming in his sleep. Like he'd be awake, but he wasn't awake. It was just, it's terrifying. And you're just doing whatever you can to like comfort him. He hasn't had one, knock on wood, like since he was like 2 years old, but he would do that. And then another weird, he's very like sensitive and in tune. And I know all little kids are, but he just picks up on weird stuff. But this one freaked us out because this happened when we moved into this house. We moved into this house in January of 2020. And weird side note, when we moved in here, we got we kept getting these memberships to BJ's, BJ's.
Oh man, yeah,
the wholesale. So like they send them all the time, but we were like, you know what, let's do it. And something in my head was like, we got to stock up in January of 2020. And we went and we spent like $600 at BJ's, and I bought paper towels, toilet paper, canned goods, all this stuff. And then this was before we heard of anything going on in 2020, but it was just like this weird like calling I had to do it. It was like we finally have the space to like, because we've always been in small houses and apartments, and this is a duplex. It's still pretty small, but we have a full-size basement. So I was like, let's stock up. Like,
hell yeah.
Side note, but anyway,
that's what we're doing too.
Yeah, exactly.
Just slowly but surely, kind of like every grocery trip, we've just been kind of getting more and more of the unperishables and stuff like that.
Exactly. That's what I tell people, because everyone, says like, well, how do you do it? You just go in but no, when you go to the grocery store, grab like 5 cans of something, or look for stuff like this, grab a couple extra if you can afford it. It doesn't have to be like this.
Right. It doesn't have to just be like beans in a can. You don't have to stock, you can just buy more peanut butter than you normally would or whatever,
exactly.
More, this or that. Don't go buy every fucking toilet paper roll in one flash, anxiety attack.
Yeah. I have like a set thing. I grab like 2 gallons of distilled water, a couple cans of like green beans or whatever, like can they have an abundance of, I'll grab. And then I'll grab just like a bag of rice, just like little stuff. It's like $15,
Right. Yeah.
But you do that every week. Before you know it, you got shelves of food and stuff.
Exactly.
So, but so this one was weird. And my son, he was 3 years old at the time. And I have I'll have to talk to my wife again after this, but this was just bizarre. He had an imaginary friend named Bertsy. Okay.
These are always interesting.
Yeah. So this one was weird because he was similar thing. He's like talking in his room and playing around and stuff. And we were like, who are you talking to? He's like, oh, it's Bertsy. We're like, okay, what's Bertsy look like? Because I love this. I love it, but I'm like terrified too. So I'm like, well, tell me about Bertsy. And he goes, oh, he died. And I went, oh, Bertsy died. I said, what do you mean he died? He's like, oh yeah, he died. And I'm like, how did he die? He goes, oh, he threw up. And I'm like, what do you mean he threw up? And then he like made, I don't remember the exact reference, but he made a reference to like he drank something and he threw up and then he died. And so I'm like trying to research, like, did anyone live here named like Robert or something? Like, did he die of alcohol poisoning or like, I haven't been able to find anything, but it's just such a weird, he made a reference, like he drank too much and he threw up and he died. And it's like, that's just such a bizarre thing for a 3-year-old. And like, we don't have alcohol in the house. I don't drink anymore. Like, so it's just a weird thing for like him to say. And I could be looking way too much into it because as you know, they do say some things. Yeah. But that was a weird one. And
anything with your kids, man. Yeah, the owl shit. Yeah, just like you. I'm terrified, but I was also like fascinated and I wanted to hear more. My wife's like, stop asking him about it.
Right. We don't want him to be the weirdo. But he's already a weirdo. He's got me and my wife as parents.
Exactly. That's how I feel. But you know, hey, there's such a, you know, weird is such a better word these days.
Exactly. And yeah, dude, I've had just strange little things like that kind of going on since last year. And then I had one other lucid dream. I haven't really talked about this ever. It's just very bizarre. I woke up, I was on the bed, and this is the one that happened on April 4th of 2021. And this is the last like lucid dream with like sleep paralysis that I've had. And then I had another weird one in June that wasn't really sleep paralysis. We can get into that too, because it involved my dog as well, but I don't know how much time we have left.
Sure. No, we can, whatever you want, man. Definitely get into that. The more of this dog stuff is pretty cool.
Yeah. So this one, just real quick, it was like, I woke up and I couldn't get off the bed. So like the lights were all off in the room and I could see like the light glowing in the hallway outside the door. And I just couldn't get off the bed. Like the bed was literally sucking me in this lucid dream. And like the blankets would wrap around my legs. I couldn't like the carpet was grabbing me. I'd get off the bed finally I had to get to the door. That was like the mission. I had to get to the door and I finally like stretched my way through the room, which is not far. It's like a 15-foot walk, like around the bed, if even that. And I finally get to the door. And as soon as I touched the handle to the door, I got snapped back into the bed and I had to do it all over again.
Oh, damn.
So this happened 3 times. It's always 3. It's a weird, whatever.
Yeah, I agree.
But so it happened 3 times. And by the 3rd time, I was like, oh, I know what to do. And I just got up and like walked to the door. Like it was trying to resist. Like, you know, I was like, no, I'm just going to walk to the door. Like the first time was like, I'm like crawling through quicksand almost like to get to the door. The second time was a little less of a struggle. By the 3rd time I was like, I'm done. And I just literally got out of bed and like walked to the door. And when I went to open it, I woke up and I was in sleep paralysis.
That's crazy. Damn,
so I don't know what the significance behind that was or if there was any, but it was just a weird thing. And it's like, as soon as I like became conscious and really aware of what was going on, like I'm dreaming, right? Like I knew I was dreaming and I was like, I know this room isn't actually doing this to me. And I literally just walked pretty much to the door and it's
like a metaphor for kind of sleeping through life versus waking up and realizing, you know, figuring out your illusions about things and coming to terms with stuff, waking up, quote unquote. It's
right.
An interesting little microcosm. Doing the same thing over and over again, get stuck in that quicksand, trying to get out.
And that's the thing. Like I overanalyze everything. I'm thinking
me
like,
too.
Every possible...
That's why we do what we do.
Exactly. And it's like, so that happened. And that was the last like sleep paralysis I had. And then this one, I don't know what it is with this last one that happened in June. It happened the weekend of Father's Day. And it's so freaking bizarre that we went to bed, you know, Father's Day was what it was. My stepson was at his dad's house and all that. So it was Sunday. Yeah, it was Sunday night. So Sunday, June 19th, I believe it was. Normal day, everything. We go to bed. And well, I was up very late. So I was up till about 1 o'clock, which isn't very late for me, but
Mm.
normal. I had to like do stuff the next day. So take the dog out at 1 o'clock at night or 1 o'clock in the morning. He goes to the bathroom. He does everything. I go up to bed and I lay down and I just pass out, which whenever that happens is never like a good thing. Usually it takes me forever to fall asleep, but so fall asleep. And then all of a sudden my dog just starts freaking out, just starts going absolutely ballistic in the room, like barking, scratching at the door, going nuts. And I'm like freaking out because we live in a duplex. We have a neighbor that complains every time the dog farts. So I'm like,
geez.
I get up and I look at the door, or I look at the clock and it's 2:43. And I'm like, okay, so I was asleep for like an hour and the dog's just going nuts. He's scratching, like literally clawing at the door, just doing, he looks terrified. And I'm like, what the? So I open the door, but I'm still kind of like half asleep, not really paying attention too much to it. And I'm like, all right, let's just go outside. I think he's just got to go out. And he's pretty young. He's only a couple months old at this point. And so I take him outside, I get his leash on and everything. I'm still like scrambling around. I get him outside. He literally runs in the grass and just lays down. And I'm like, okay, that's weird. I'm still half asleep. I'm not paying attention to it or anything like that. And finally drag him in, he pees a little bit and I get him inside and he like won't come in the house. He's like really pulling me and he's a pretty big dog. And I'm like, get in the house. Get.
Yeah.
I get him in and I close the glass door in the kitchen, lock it. And he just lays down next to the door and he's just like, won't. And like I said, this dog is up my ass all the time. He won't follow me upstairs. He's just laying by the door. I'm like, whatever. I go up to bed, fall asleep. And I wake up in the morning. It's like 6 o'clock, normal morning, nothing weird. I feel very out of it though, but I'm not thinking anything of it. It's just, it is what it is. I didn't get a ton of sleep. And I roll over and my wife looks at me and she goes, what's that on your shoulder? And I'm like, what do you mean? What's that on my shoulder? And I look and there was like a mark. It looked like a brand, but it was flat. Like it almost looked, the best way to describe it, it looked like a bruise almost, like that dark kind of maroonish thing. And it was like a circle within another circle, but it wasn't fully complete. And I was like, okay, that's weird. So I start thinking like, did I sleep on my phone cord? Did I fall asleep on like something weird, that just left an impression or whatever? Nothing on the bed, nothing like that, nothing even in the room that was that size or anything. And I'm just completely out of it the whole day, call out of work. I'm just had other stuff to do anyway, so it wasn't a big deal. But it's like I was just off all day. And this mark was on my arm, and we like took a picture of it. I went to send it to like my mother-in-law. The picture wouldn't send, which was very weird. And so I posted it on Instagram. I like posted a little video with it. It was one of the first things I kind of posted. And of course you get a lot of people saying, oh, it's all fake, whatever. But I don't know what this was. I have no explanation. I mean, I looked up tick bites. I looked up bug bite, like any possible thing. I have no real explanation whatsoever. It's weird. So that happened.
Yeah.
The dog was freaking out and can't explain it. But something weird that I didn't even notice at the time. But I went on another show called the Uncomfortable Podcast. So shout out to them. But he asked me like, did you have any pain that went away? And this is so weird because I always have this like weird kind of like back tension. It's not really like back pain, but like I always have to crack my back, and I hadn't had to crack my back in like several weeks after this happened. Just kind of a coincidence, but
That's interesting.
it stayed on my arm it happened like that Monday morning. It stayed on my arm till about Friday, and Saturday it was completely gone. It didn't like fade away. It just was gone.
That's
and it's very weird. And what's so weird too is like on Saturday morning, I forgot to mention this earlier, but like all this year we were dealing with my son having, he just got like horrible headaches. He was puking constantly, diarrhea. Like we just couldn't figure out what was wrong with him. And they were like trying to send him for MRI. They wanted to do all this stuff and check his head and all this. And we're like, what is this? And we took him to the doctor one day because he was having just horrible headaches. And it wasn't his normal doctor. She's more of like a naturopath, like nurse practitioner. And she's like, I'm just going to run some blood work. I just want to see if anything comes back. So that Saturday morning, the pediatrician's office called us and they were like, oh, your son has celiac disease. And we're like, okay. And they're like, yeah, there's more tests we got to do. We want him to see a gastro doctor and everything, but they're like, we highly recommend a gluten-free diet. And so of course we did that, and they pretty much stopped. It still takes a while to get used to it and everything like that, but it's just weird. We got that. And then the Friday before that too, I forgot to mention this, we got a phone call from someone that's working with my stepson, someone that's helping him out. I'm not going to get into the specifics of it, but we got a phone call from him that was very good news. And it just, I have to try to take this as like a positive thing because I really don't know what the heck this was. I just know my dog freaked out and I woke up with a weird mark on my arm. And when it disappeared, we had good news the day before and good news the next day, even though finding out your kid has celiac disease isn't great news, but it's an answer.
Relieving as a parent.
And this is what's so weird. So like, I just posted that video and Eric from the Uncomfortable podcast was like, I want to get you on and talk about this, experience. And we're like just chatting on the podcast and whatever. And he's like, what time did you wake up again? And I was like, it was 2:43. I don't know. It just specifically stood out in my head. And so he looks up like the angelic meaning of 2:43. You want to guess what it is? Prayers answered.
Prayers answered. Oh man. That's
and
pretty
it's like
wild, dude. That's so wild.
It adds up to 9, and it's like all this stuff with the number 9. And again, maybe I'm looking too far into this. Maybe it was something.
I don't think you're looking too far into it, man. I think it's all there. It's all as far off as two things can be. They're still connected. They're still part of the same big blanket, all these threads, I mean, the Beatles had that ominous number 9, and even with or without the creepy Tavistock idea of the Beatles being just a created thing and all of it being contrived, still the message is there. It's being given. The number 9 is very important, it seems. Tesla talked about it. Vortex mathematics. If you haven't looked into that, look into that. It's very interesting. It's all about the number 9 again. Man, yeah, we could keep going. We could go in all different directions, but we'll wrap it up here for this time. And I'll definitely have you back, man. This was really cool. We'll have to do some more work. And The Witness is going to be an upcoming show that I'll probably be doing late January, putting it out. So yeah, we'll probably get some cool roundtables going, get you involved in one of those, man, getting, a more broad take on these types of experiences and have some minds bounce some ideas off each other and stuff like that. Sound good?
It sounds great to me, man. And I love that series. It's so cool because again, like I said, the reason I started my show is because I believe everyone's had some type of paranormal experience. And I want this to be like I hate the phrase safe space, but I want my show to be like a safe space for people to come on and talk about it,
Yeah, man, definitely.
And just try to not necessarily get to the bottom of it, but just try to see all the connecting threads because I mean, I'm sure you've experienced this too with like every guest I have has some weird synchronicity.
Yes, dude. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
It's crazy. And it's, yeah,
we already did. We were just, the year anniversary, we were talking about that thing,
Mm-hmm.
So that's cool, man. Yeah, it's always synchronous to get together with other podcasters that think like this. I think whoever's hyper aware of this kind of thing and is actively critically thinking about stuff like this it's easier to connect on that higher level with one another. So I'm glad we got to finally connect, dude. This has been awesome. Thanks for sharing all your stories, and please tell my viewers and listeners where they can find you.
Yeah, thank you for that opportunity, and it's been awesome, dude. My show's called Upstate Unconventional. I'm on all the major platforms. I'm on alt media, and my Instagram, which is the best way to get in contact with me, is Upstate_Unconventional. So yeah, if you have a story, or you just, even if you don't want to be on the show, you just want to like send me your story, feel free. You know, I just want to get people talking about it and kind of normalize the paranormal. So yeah.
Hell yeah, man. Awesome.
Andy, this was awesome. Thank you so much for having me on.
Definitely, man. And I can't wait to have you back, and we'll get some even deeper threads uncovered, man.
Definitely.
All right. Everybody check out Niko's show, and have a great night.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Deep Share Podcast. If you want to hear more, then hit that subscribe button. Follow me on all the social places. And remember, think for yourself, but don't always believe what you think. Till next time.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, that's hysteria. Enough, I get the point.
You have meddled with the primal forces of nature. And you will atone.
What do we know? What do we know? If I know what we know, then I can tell you what we know, and if someone else knows, okay? I mean...